Harlem Heat, consisting of Booker T and Stevie Ray, were easily one of the greatest tag teams ever, not only in WCW but in the entire wrestling business. The brothers had a great run in World Championship Wrestling where they became cornerstones of the company's tag team division, and their unique blend of athleticism mixed with hard-hitting moves made the team extremely entertaining. During the final years of WCW though, a new version of Harlem Heat was put out to audiences, one that didn't include Booker T. And still to this day, fans look back and they scratch their heads at the decisions that were made when Harlem Heat 2000 became a thing. It seemed like anything that had the year 2000 after its name was destined to be horrible. Today, we're going to take a look at the whole Harlem Heat 2000 saga and why it didn't work. To tell the full story, we have to go all the way back to the 1st of November 1999. Stevie Ray loses a strap match to Buff Bagwell. The superstars of WCW were having to deal with the powers that be, WCW's real-life writers and on-screen authority figures, and the powers that be booked this strap match between Buff and Stevie. Because Stevie lost, he got suspended, and later in the night, Booker T took a beating from Jeff Jarrett and Creative Control, better known as the Harris Brothers, and acting here as heavies for the powers that be. The following week, Booker T called out Creative Control and Jeff Jarrett. Booker wanted a Harlem street fight live on Nitro, and keep in mind that Booker had no backup here, seeing as Stevie had been suspended. When the numbers got too much, an unknown woman jumped in the ring to help Booker T, but she ended up taking a guitar shot from Double J. The commentators had no idea who this woman was, but Booker T helped her to the back afterwards. On the following episode of Thunder, Mean Gene Okerlund wanted to know who this mystery woman was, but Booker didn't give her a name. All he said was he and this woman go a long way back and she knows how to take care of herself. On the 15th of November episode of Nitro, Mike Tenay again asked Booker about the woman, and Booker said her name was Midnight, and when midnight strikes, it's all over for Creative Control. Booker then had a 2-on-1 match against Creative Control. The lights went out towards the end of the bout, and Midnight did indeed strike when she helped Booker take care of his opponents. The same thing happened the following week when Booker was attacked. Midnight showed up, and the week after that, it was the same thing again. Fans were popping for Midnight too, by the way. When those lights went out and she showed up in the middle of the ring, fans did get behind her. Vince Russo brought Stevie Ray back to WCW on the December 6th episode of Nitro, and Russo also gave Harlem Heat a chance to become #1 contenders for the tag titles at Starrcade 99. Booker and Stevie were then attacked in Russo's office, and so Midnight had no backup when she faced the Revolution's Asia later in the evening. As expected, the Revolution made sure Midnight didn't win and she was attacked after the match. On the Nitro before Starrcade, Harlem Heat and Midnight took on Asia, Perry Saturn and Dean Malenko in a 6-man tag, and this was when some problems began to surface. Midnight ends up hurting her knee after a leapfrog and Stevie Ray gets covered. Booker T had the chance to break the pin, but he instead rushes over to check on Midnight, leading to Harlem Heat losing the match and Stevie Ray wondering why his brother didn't save the bout. It was clear that Stevie Ray didn't care a whole lot for Midnight following the match, but at Starrcade, it was made crystal clear that Stevie wanted absolutely nothing to do with Midnight. While Booker T tried to sugarcoat the problems within Harlem Heat during a pre-match interview, Stevie told Booker to just tell it how it is. Midnight shouldn't be getting involved with Harlem Heat, seeing as Booker and Stevie were doing fine on their own, and Stevie told Booker that he wouldn't have his back later if things didn't go well. The Starrcade match was supposed to be a 6-man tag, Harlem Heat and Midnight versus Creative Control and Kurt Hennig, but Stevie Ray did not come to the ring to begin the match. Instead, Stevie watched on as Midnight and Booker T tried to win the match while at a disadvantage, and Stevie ended up stopping Midnight from breaking a cover on Booker T, leading to Harlem Heat losing the match and losing a shot at the tag titles. Even with these problems, Booker and Stevie got together to take on the Varsity Club the next night on Monday Nitro. Stevie Ray was in the ring when Midnight showed up, and Midnight ended up costing Stevie the match. One of the big turning points of this angle happened on the first WCW Thunder episode of 2000. Booker T comes to the ring and he talks about getting his ass kicked while Stevie Ray was suspended, and because he had no backup, Booker was thankful for Midnight's help. Booker wanted Stevie and Midnight to get on the same page so Harlem Heat could move forward as a dominating trio, but Stevie comes out and Booker's older brother has different plans in mind. Stevie says Midnight isn't ready, she's costing Harlem Heat matches, and besides, Stevie Ray started Harlem Heat. According to Stevie, Booker has no right hiring Midnight while Stevie was out suspended. Stevie wants a match against Midnight and Booker says the match has to be fair, and if Midnight loses, she's gone, she won't be a part of the group. If Midnight wins, however, then Stevie has to accept her and the team moves forward as a trio. The Midnight vs Stevie Ray match happens later in the night and Midnight ends up surprising Stevie with an inside cradle. Stevie loses clean in the ring, and so Harlem Heat and Midnight are supposed to be an official team. Stevie hugs Midnight, it looks like everything has been finally sorted out, but then Booker and Midnight get attacked with Stevie's slapjack. Stevie isn't gonna accept Midnight after all, and Stevie Ray has officially left the group. On Nitro, Stevie explained himself during an interview with Mean Gene Okerlund. Stevie said Harlem Heat made their debut in WCW 7 years prior and everyone in the office tried to hold the team down. Stevie and Booker proved themselves in the ring, but Booker got a little big-headed when he was given the TV title. And Stevie says the TV title was as far as WCW wanted Booker to go. Stevie can't get over the fact that Booker would choose Midnight over his own brother, and it's Souled Out 2000, it's all gonna come to an end. Booker and Midnight come to the ring and Booker says he won't fight Stevie at the pay-per-view. Stevie made his choice on Thunder and Booker says he wants nothing to do with him anymore. And when Booker tries to leave, Stevie slaps him across the face. The slap makes Booker change his mind. The match is on, it's sold out. But Booker tells his brother that the match on pay-per-view won't fix their problems. I just want to add here that so far there's been absolutely nothing wrong with this angle. In a time when WCW didn't know where they were at and control was seemingly slipping through their fingers, this storyline had a decent amount of time to develop, and there's absolutely nothing to complain about in terms of how this thing was built up. Alright, Souled Out 2000. Before the match, we see Stevie Ray walking around the hood and Stevie says Booker wants to forget all this. Booker T wants to leave his past behind, but Stevie wants Booker to remember where he came from. Stevie says Booker tries to forget about how he used to live. Booker tries to forget about his friends who were there before Harlem Heat got big. And all Stevie can do is tell people that Booker T doesn't have time for them anymore. We go backstage where Mean Gene interviews Stevie and Stevie says he's gonna teach Booker a lesson tonight. Booker T will always be Stevie's brother, but what happens tonight is gonna hurt Booker more than it hurts Stevie. Booker comes out wearing a unique outfit and he's brought to the ring by Midnight. He cuts a promo where he says it's actually Stevie Ray who's forgotten where he's came from. Booker could always rely on his big brother to watch his back, but not anymore. That job now belongs to Midnight. And Booker says Stevie used to call him Junior, but from this point on, Big Brother will call him Booker T. Again, good stuff. The heel in all this, Stevie Ray, had plausible motivation for turning on his brother, and depending on how you look at it, you could say that Stevie was absolutely right in turning his back on Booker T. Things drastically changed though at the end of this match. Booker and Stevie work well against each other during the bout, and for WCW in 2000 standards, this one was pretty good, except it was too short. But yeah, Booker hits the bookend, and then Ahmed Johnson hits the ring. Ahmed and Stevie Ray attack Booker T, and we even see the Pearl River plunge. We'll get this out of the way now. Ahmed was much bigger here, and not bigger as in more muscular, he'd put on a few pounds. But still, the reaction here was one of surprise, and Ahmed showing up at the end of this match was pretty effective. Now, look anywhere on the internet and you'll find people ripping into Ahmed Johnson, and I too like to point out his little mishaps when we look at Raw shows from late 1995 onwards. But anyone who says that Ahmed wasn't popular at one point in the World Wrestling Federation is quite simply simply incorrect. Ahmed Johnson had some great crowd support when he worked for Vince McMahon, but admittedly, he also had his shortcomings in the ring and on the mic. These days, this has been amplified with the internet echo chamber, but anyone who watched wrestling during Ahmed's active WWF days, especially his early active days, will tell you that he got some insane pops from the audience. Bringing Ahmed into WCW wasn't an absolutely terrible idea, but how he was used certainly was, and the fact that he didn't look too good also brings some bad and unwanted attention to Ahmed's short run in World Championship Wrestling. Anyway, Stevie Ray calls Ahmed Big T, that's his new gimmick name, and Big T says that Midnight turned her back on Formely for a piece of fish, hinting that Midnight and Big T could be related, but nothing comes of this. Stevie Ray then tells everyone to take a look at the new and improved Harlem Heat. Okay, so I've said as much nice things as I can about this angle. This is where things start to get silly. The next night, Booker gets interviewed by Mean Gene, and Booker says he and Stevie once talked about bringing Big T into Harlem Heat, but they decided he wasn't a good fit for the group. Stevie and Big T go to the ring, and Stevie once again says that this is the new and improved Harlem Heat, but if Booker comes down to the ring right now, Stevie will forgive him and bring his little brother into the fold, meaning Harlem Heat would consist of Booker T, Big T, and Stevie Ray. Booker comes out with Midnight, and Stevie tells his brother to, quote, send his big rat to the back. This is between Stevie and Booker. Booker ends up attacking Big T, Stevie attacks Booker, and Booker then gets hit with a really rough looking Pearl River plunge that looked like it hurt really bad. A match then begins between Big T and Booker T, and you can just tell that Ahmed shouldn't have been in the ring here. He isn't moving around well at all, and it looks like Booker has to work a little harder to try to get something out of the former Ahmed Johnson. Big T ends up winning after using Stevie Ray's slapjack. The next week, Stevie and Big T cost Booker a match against Lex Luger when they interfered. On the final Nitro of January, Booker T came out for a match, but his entrance music was cut off early. Booker was kind of confused about this, but out comes Clarence Mason to explain what's going on, now known as J.Biggs, or Mr. Biggs. As Stevie Ray and Big T walk out to the entrance stage, Biggs explains that the Rap Sheet theme song is property of Harlem Heat Inc, and Booker T is no longer part of Harlem Heat. This means Booker T can no longer come down to the ring using the iconic and distinctive track that he'd been using throughout most of his WCW career. Also, this is fucking stupid, but also the T in Booker T's name. Apparently because Booker used the name Booker T while in Harlem Heat, and because Booker is no longer part of Harlem Heat, he has no right to use the letter T in his name. This would be copyright infringement. Yeah, letters of the alphabet are getting copyrighted. Surprised WWE isn't doing this kind of thing nowadays on YouTube. So Booker can no longer use the T in his name because the letter T also belongs to Harlem Heat Incorporated. Stevie Ray says that the flame tights and the flame gear that Booker T usually wears, he needs to stop wearing those. Stevie tells Booker to grab his G.I. Bro outfit and try to make a living wearing that instead. Big T says the name T belongs to him. I think Mr. T may disagree, and if Booker has a problem with it, then they can settle it right now. Mark Madden comes off with a great line when he says if Booker drops the T from his name, then no one will like him backstage anymore. Mr. Biggs sends Stevie and Big T away so he can rub it into Booker a little more, but then Midnight shows up and Biggs gets brought to the ring. Booker hits Biggs with a right hand, but Big T and Stevie Ray come back out and Booker takes a beating. Midnight tries to help out, but it's no use. Biggs goes to attack Booker, but he decides to sell the neck instead. Clearly he's going to try to get Booker done for assault. The following week, Booker came to the ring wearing trunks. His entrance theme was replaced with whimsical cartoony music that you'd find in a Disney movie. His pyro was also taken away, and not only did Booker end up getting beat by the wall, but Booker also got arrested for assault, negligence, reckless endangerment, and attempted murder. You know, I do really think WCW may have had something with this Booker versus Stevie Ray stuff during this time period, but it's gotten really dumb really fast. Later in the night, Stevie Ray defeated Disco Inferno. Booker got a little revenge on Thunder when he went after Stevie Ray and J.Biggs. It all ended with Booker hitting his older brother with a chair before leaving the arena. The following week, the new Harlem Heat, complete with matching ring gear, took part in a three-way tag match against the Mamelukes and David Flair and Crowbar. Stevie Ray ended up getting pinned, but after the match, Harlem Heat 2000 went on the rampage, and Big T almost botched another Pearl River plunge, prompting Stevie Ray to assist Big T on the second attempt. Later in the evening, it was confirmed by Booker that a match was scheduled for Super Brawl between himself and Big T. At the pay-per-view, Stevie Ray said that someone who watched Booker T's back might be on the opposing team, hinting at Midnight joining Harlem Heat. During Booker's interview, it was also revealed that the Harlem Heat name, the music, the letter T, everything was on the line in this match. If Booker could win, he would become the owner of all the Harlem Heat property, but that unfortunately didn't happen. Booker had to carry Big T through the match, and towards the end, the lights went out and people were expecting Midnight, but instead they got Cassius, or Kash, maybe better known or lesser known as 4x4 from Master P's No Limit Soldiers. An extremely big letdown for those in attendance and those watching at home. Big T ends up winning with the Pearl River plunge, and fans at this point couldn't have cared less. It was a little sad and a bit shocking to see how bad Big T was in this matchup though. There's a few moments where it looks like he's never been in a ring before, and honestly, there's no reason to go back and watch this bout. Mr. Big says this is the new Harlem Heat Incorporated. The former tag team of Booker T and Stevie Ray had now evolved into a faction. The next night on Nitro, before taking a beating in the ring from the Mamelukes and the Harris brothers, Booker T said everything is gone. The music, the flames, the letter T, I'll never get over that. It's all gone, but it doesn't matter. Booker is still an active wrestler and Harlem Heat Incorporated can keep all that other stuff. Mr. Biggs confirms that Harlem Heat Incorporated now own all the rights and all the royalties, and Stevie Ray introduces Cassius as a man who once looked out for Booker T. Can't get over how he just stands there without moving, and as for Big Ahmed, well, that outfit is certainly something. Stevie Ray also says he's done with Booker and the team is moving on, except that was a lie. On the 28th of February episode of Nitro, Booker T had a match with Billy Kidman and both guys were attacked by the Harris brothers. Harlem Heat said afterwards that that's what happens when you don't roll with the big dogs anymore. The next week, Harlem Heat 2000 had a match against Billy Kidman and a surprise partner, and what a big surprise. Booker teams up with Kidman here and the babyfaces still take a loss. So it looks like Booker had formed an alliance with Kidman in order to fight Harlem Heat, and again, nobody really cared. A rematch was booked for Uncensored, and Stevie Ray tried to place some doubt in Billy Kidman's head in regards to trusting Booker, and problems would arise between Kidman and Booker during a tag team match on the March 13th episode of Nitro when Billy poached a pinfall victory, but it didn't matter in the end. Billy Kidman and Booker T defeated Harlem Heat 2000 at the Uncensored pay-per-view. This match was an improvement when compared to the Big T vs Booker match the previous month, but not by much. Big T was absolutely shattered minutes into the match, and he looked wrecked by the time it was over. The decision was ultimately made to release Ahmed Johnson, or Big T, due to concerns over his weight. Booker T and Kidman continued to tag up and Harlem Heat continued to cause problems for Booker and Billy, but the angle was slowly phased out as WCW looked forward to its big company reset and the New Blood storyline. Big T and Stevie Ray were associated with the New Blood, but the team wouldn't exist long enough to truly get involved in the angle, and that's probably a good thing. Harlem Heat 2000 competed in the tag team title tournament held at Spring Stampede, but they were defeated by Buff Bagwell and Shane Douglas. And after the bout, Stevie and Big T almost came to blows. Their final match in the ring was a handicap match on WCW Thunder where the team lost to Terry Funk. Stevie Ray and Big T began fighting with each other during the match as a way to split the team up on TV. But Big T actually stayed around for a month or so afterwards and he still competed in Harlem Heat matches. However, these matches only happened at house shows. Stevie Ray stayed off TV for a few weeks afterwards, and by July, Stevie was teaming up with Booker T once again. Booker was now the WCW World Heavyweight Champion. Harlem Heat 2000, or Harlem Heat Incorporated, whatever you want to call them, took what was a decent enough angle and turned it into something truly bad. New versions of established teams or gimmicks usually fail to take off, but there are a couple of exceptions. Harlem Heat 2000 was not one of those exceptions. Keeping Booker T involved in the story made sense, but fans just didn't want to see a new Harlem Heat. And things got even worse when Booker moved on to different feuds and fans were left with a second-rate version of a classic WCW tag team. In reality though, it worked out well for Booker. Leaving Harlem Heat eventually led him to the WCW Championship, so it wasn't all for nothing. The Stevie Ray vs Booker feud leading up to Souled Out I thought was also pretty good, but as soon as the new Harlem Heat was introduced, that's when things went downhill. Fans were shocked to see Ahmed at Souled Out, and that part of the story was fine. But actually putting Stevie and Ahmed together and calling them Harlem Heat, that was a bad idea, I thought. And I don't want to rip into Big Ahmed either, but you can go ahead and watch his WCW matches for yourself, and I think you'll come to the same conclusion that I did. They were bad. It's another story of WCW in 2000 really. It probably sounded good in a meeting, but nobody thought about where it would go and how it would evolve. If the plan was to help Booker T stand out as a single star, then that's all good. But we also saw Harlem Heat take a massive downgrade in this storyline, thanks to the decisions that were made backstage. WCW quite simply could do very little right during this time period. But that'll do it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one, and take care.